Hi guys, welcome back to Confessions with Cassidy. I, of course, am Cassidy, and I'm so happy that you are here this week. This video is all about a new direction. You've heard of One Direction, now it's time for a new one. I am really excited to make this video. When I was planning it out, it just kind of reminded me of how many different life directions I've taken and how much experience I've gained by kind of just jumping into the deep end. But before we dive in, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you're feeling extra lovely, please hit that bell. So, this video is all about how to take the leap into a new life direction. And my goodness, how scary can that be? That is one of the most terrifying things you can do, especially when you have a routine and you have a life and you have structure, and then suddenly you get an opportunity or something arises where you can go a completely different direction. And I always say, why the hell not? You get 100 years on this planet, you might as well live them to the fullest and take every opportunity and live life exactly how you want. And of course, I understand that that's a very privileged mindset because obviously finances, family, and life situation is completely different, and some have a more challenging experience than others. But this video is less about that and more about the why nots. But when an opportunity does arise, no matter your situation, that is possible and could change your life, these are kind of the steps that I would take in order to make those come to fruition. With that being said, let's get into the first point. My first point would be do the work. Planning is absolutely essential when it comes to a new life direction. Spontaneous life changes are amazing, and they can lead to some of the most wild adventures that are just so fulfilling to the soul. But in my experience, 9 times out of 10, some planning when changing a life direction is needed and necessary. Mostly because it just makes the entire transition so much easier. When I first made the decision to move to Germany with Philip, I was terrified. I mean, there was so much that needed to get done and it was extremely overwhelming. But we worked together and we planned the entire thing about visas, about opportunities, about jobs, about work permits, about how I would be able to be a registered permanent resident of Germany. And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of long hours and little bickering fights because we were both frustrated and we just wanted it to work out. But because of the planning that we did, it ended up just being such an easier process, and especially right before COVID and during COVID when my entire visa process was happening in Germany. That stress aside, I was already going through a really stressful time, so because of the planning, it just made everything a lot smoother and easier in a very turbulent time. When it comes to especially visas and moving to a new country, these things don't happen overnight. There's no chance for spontaneity because they have to be approved. I mean, I have friends who it takes 8 months in order for them to receive an answer on the residence permit, to get a interview, to get a residence permit. Like, there takes so much planning and structure and patience when changing a life direction that it's just so important to kind of get your ducks in a row so you know exactly what to expect. So whenever there is like a wrench thrown in the process, you're prepared enough to take anything on without feeling overwhelmed. Alternatively, if it's a new job opportunity or job offer, even if it's in your same town, it's so important to do the research on what is expected of you in this new title and what is different from your previous title. It's already stressful enough to start a new job. And when you're prepared about what is expected of you and anything that you could possibly learn and prepare beforehand before actually starting, you're already giving yourself a better opportunity when walking in the door. Because like I said, anything could come in your way and you have enough confidence in your preparation to be able to handle anything. My second point would be take risks. With planning aside, risks are worth it almost always. And even if they're not worth it, for me, I would always rather an oh well than a what if. And I think that's just a really important mindset when thinking about changing your life direction and changing the trajectory that you're on. Because you can plan and plan and plan, but eventually you just have to rip the Band-Aid off. You have to book the ticket to the new country. You have to send the resume. You just have to try and put the energy out there that things are going to work out and that the opportunities are going to arise. Because eventually, you get to a point after all your planning where you just have to jump headfirst into the water and just pray it's deep enough. And of course, there's always a possibility of failure. But like I said, I would always rather an oh well than a what if. I think failure is such an important lesson, and you can learn so much from all your failures. And at the end of the day, they're not even really failures if you can take a lesson from them. You know, I had so many take the risk moments in my life so far. When I was 18, I moved to New York City to go to school. I was not ready for New York, but New York was ready for me, so I went. When I was 20, I got a job opportunity to move across the world, to then travel the world, and I was terrified because New York had become my home, but I said, why not? This is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I ended up staying there for 5 years and seeing 61 different countries and meeting my fiance. And if I hadn't taken that risk of taking that job opportunity, my entire life would be completely different. I would for sure not be literally at the same company right now on a sea day sailing. And lastly, my boyfriend asked me to marry him, and I got on a plane and moved to Germany. And that is the most exciting thing that has ever happened to me. But without taking all the other risks in my life, I wouldn't have had this final opportunity of meeting my soulmate and having our life together. None of that would have happened if I wouldn't have moved to New York, if I wouldn't have taken the job opportunity. And that's why it's so important to just take the risk and say yes. My third point is easy doesn't equal better. Some things fall into your lap so easy. I have a friend who just happens to have every opportunity possible just fall flat in his lap, and it's just so easy for him. And we talk about it all the time, and he's like, this shouldn't be happening, but it does. And I'm constantly like, must have the luckiest little streak that all these opportunities just fall into your lap. And that is so amazing, and I'm so happy for him. But we've also had lots of discussions about he hasn't had to do the hard work in order to reap the reward. Because if every opportunity arises on a whim, you don't learn how to work for it. And you don't learn how to do the research and how to plan and how to figure out exactly how you want your life to look and do the work in order to get it. That can end up being kind of detrimental later on in life when it's about massive life decisions and you don't have the skill set in order to accomplish them seamlessly. So that's why easy doesn't always equal better. It's amazing when it does happen sometimes, but I think it's also important to have things that you do have to work for and you have to put the extra energy in order to reap the rewards. It's also extremely easy to become stagnant in your life, but you're not a tree. Pick up and move if you're not happy. Change your situation. Break up with the shitty boyfriend or girlfriend. Quit your job with the boss you hate. And figure out what makes you happy, because like I said, you get maximum 100 years on this planet. So why are you wasting them doing things that you don't want to be doing, or that don't make you happy, or don't bring you any joy? And finally, my fourth point is beware of negative thinking. Complaining about your situation is not going to change it. That can be kind of harsh to say, but if you get stuck in this negative loop of constantly hating your situation and hating your life, but doing nothing to change it, you're not going to be any happier the next day. And complaining can make you feel good for about 10 minutes when you're like kind of chatting the shit with somebody and you feel like, okay, I was heard. But your situation is still the same and you're still going to complain about the same thing the next day. So I challenge you to break that narrative and figure out, okay, I keep complaining about this one thing. Maybe I need to start writing down why this is making me unhappy and what are some possibilities of how I can change it. Is it your shitty boyfriend that you're complaining about? Mama, break up with him. Why are you wasting your time? Why are you wasting your time on somebody that makes you complain about a relationship, a job, the country you live in? It's so important to put that work in and acknowledge your situation so that you finally are able to look at your life and be like, these are the steps I can take in order to change it. And finally, I'll leave you with a little story. I have a really close friend whose family was in a legal action and they ended up winning a pretty big lump sum of money. And they sat down together as a family and basically said, well, we can either pay off our debt, but still have other debt, or we can take this money and go on a 2-week life-changing holiday. And they ended up taking the holiday. And 15 years later, my friend, he still speaks about it like it was yesterday and how amazing it was to spend time with his family and to reconnect with the family. And that was 15 years ago. And since that holiday, his parents dreamed of owning a boat. And now that they're empty nesters, they put all their savings and bought a boat and they moved and they're going to sail the world. And that just fills me with so much joy to think about people changing their situations. And sometimes you do have to wait. It doesn't mean you have to do this tomorrow. But if you're watching this video and you're not happy with your situation, it doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow. But maybe you save up and in 3 years you can start your own business, or you can find a new job opportunity, or you can buy the sailboat and sail the world. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but it should be sometime, because you deserve to be happy. That's the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'm so glad that you are here watching these, and I hope something from this video resonates with you. I hope you have a beautiful week. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell, and I'll see you next week. Mwah!